It was a very busy deadline, and obviously the biggest trade came in the West. Luca Doncic shockingly getting moved from Dallas to LA, and then the Lakers moving Anthony Davis to Dallas along with Max Christie. I mean, I think obviously everybody was shocked when that trade came down. People wondering if Shams got hacked. Like, what are your initial thoughts on this deal? And how do you like it for the Lakers? How do you like it for Dallas? Do you think Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks, is as crazy as people are saying he is online, or is this actually a sneaky good move for the Mavericks? What do you guys think?
So, just as a regular fan, I think it's a good move because I know Luca is phenomenal, all time talent. Gonna, like he's not a real player in terms of his talent. Like there's very few players that have that type of ability. Um, Career averages of 28.6 points a game, like basically averaging 29 for your career, 8.7 rebounds, 8.3 assists. Like those are LeBron James numbers. 47% field goal shooting, 35% from three. Like those are LeBron James numbers. Like this guy is absolutely phenomenal. He was just in the finals, all that stuff. So I just want to say that because I think, I don't want to slander him in any way. But watching Luca play over the years, there's times I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I hate to be playing with this guy because he dominates the ball, like dominates. Like 24-second shot clock, he has the ball 20 seconds out of that 24 seconds. And everybody else is just standing there. Like I would watch PJ Washington and he's standing there like this with his hands down just in the corner. Like not I'm waiting for the pass, just waiting till Luca does his dances and does whatever. And then he'll kick it out to you. Then you're ready. Right. And I just think he doesn't play in a way where guys are cutting and moving. He's a center, he's the action, and he does everything. That could be tough to play with, and it's tough to develop other players. From that, his defense, his mannerisms, his body language, his obsessive complaining and attacking the refs is something I've never seen from a player of that stature. Like we've seen it from players before, but a player that's as good as he is on that level, who is a guy that does that? Where if you go to the basket and you miss it, rather than running back, you stop and you yell at the refs the whole time. The play's going back where you're complaining, you're moping, like your defense is so bad. Somebody go by, you hold your face and fall to the ground. Like he does things that when I say guys at that level, he's at a level of Michael Jordan, LeBron, Kobe. Those are the guys he's Magic Johnson. He's not at the level of, no offense to anybody, DeMar DeRozan, who's a really good player. Paul George, another you guys are laughing. I'm not trying to slide them. Paul George, a really good. I'm just saying other all
DeRozan catching
stars,
strays.
other all stars that are great. He's above them. There are levels to this. So when you're on that top tier, the stuff he does, like as a teammate, like it's disgusting. So I have to go back and say, for his team to know that he is this good and to trade a guy of that talent, who I'm comparing him to Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, Magic, just came from the finals. You're only 25 years old, and they trade you in the middle of the night. Like you did something wrong. Like there has to be something there. There has to be more there that we don't know. Just got to say real quick from the Dallas standpoint. That's me not being a Dallas fan. But if I was a Dallas fan, like I would be very upset. I would be very upset because obviously I'd be like, this guy is one of the all-time guys. He's 25 years old. We're trading him for Anthony Davis, who has an injury history, who's 6 years older. Yeah, I would be upset, and I would feel like there's a lot of collusion there because Nico and Rob Pelinka are best friends. So if my GM and the team you just traded our best player to are best friends, and then Nico was a Kobe guy, so he has a Laker connection. As a Dallas fan, I would feel like there's some funny business going on here. But I'll let you guys go.
And also, Justin, before you go, I think Nico, I read Nico used to be a rep for Anthony Davis or something like that when he worked for Nike. So there's another connection there as well. But yeah, but Justin, go. What'd you think about the trade?
Once again, it was the trade that absolutely shocked the world. Like, everyone, when it first hit, I was looking through various sources to say, is this actually real? I couldn't believe it. When you look at the players, when they announced it, fans told players during the games and they were talking to each other like, hey, is this for real? I've never seen a trade in which even other players are looking and saying, is this really happening? So my initial reaction was absolute shock because, as Emmanuel said, who's giving up a superstar in their prime? So I'm like, at first I was like, this is crazy. This doesn't even make sense. The next day, when I actually sat down and thought about it, I saw where they were going, but I also understood the risk of it because you're taking a guy that helped lead you to an NBA finals and you're trading him. That's unheard of. So to me, it was like, obviously AD's 31. So if you're trading for AD, you're going for the title right now. So your timeline is 2 years. Your timeline is you're either winning this year or next year. And with that timeline in those 2 years, you're thinking to yourself that AD gives me a better chance than Luca. And then I was also thinking at who you're paired with as well. You're paired with Kyrie, who's in his 30s, right? He's not as young as Luca. So you aren't really looking at getting a title 3, 4, 5 years from now. You're trying to do it now. So they're thinking AD can help us more than Luca can right now. And if I was just to take a look, be an outsider, take a look of how it impacts both teams. Obviously, for Dallas, it's the right now we want to win. Maybe you have a better shot with AD pairing, obviously a dynamic player who could actually go back to the four, which is what he wanted to play. So he's going to be happier as well. He doesn't have to play the five anymore. He has Gafford and Lively there, so that should even up his play, being able to go back to the position that he wants to play, which he hasn't been able to do in LA since Howard was there, right? So it should rejuvenate him. So I understand that. And on the other side for the Lakers, I mean, I completely get it. With AD, as great as he is, that team's roster is kind of thin. They were not title contenders. They have to think the future as well. The LA is able to get a superstar that can, play right now, obviously, and is going to be there long after LeBron retires. So the Lakers are a team that, just like the Celtics, they need to be good. So they're always trying to find a way to sort of have that franchise player in which they could be competitive year after year after year. And the only way to do that is to try and get younger, right? They can't do that with AD. How long is he going to be there? So for the Lakers, I understand. You're not going to win the title anyways. For them, it makes the most sense, for sure, on the Lakers end. Dallas, I can understand there's a little bit of fear and trepidation. But if you sit back and look at things, you can see that it's better for now, meaning this year and next year, probably to have AD. Once again, if he's healthy. But Luca, on the other hand, has injury concerns as well. So you can't really complain and say, hey, we're trading for an injured guy because when was the last time Luca played, right? So you just have to think about who could help me right now. But once again, shocking
Yeah.
trade. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, and I don't know if it'll happen again, but an absolute shock.
So who knows if this is going to happen again? Because obviously this is the first time we've ever seen two guys of this stature being traded for each other in the middle of the season, right? So just on that standpoint alone, it's crazy. But I kind of have to give Nico Harrison, I feel like I have to give him some respect for the stones that you have to have in order to even be willing to make a trade like this. I feel like a lot of GMs, even if they kind of wanted, even if they didn't like some of the things that Luca was doing, I feel like they wouldn't even have like I feel like they wouldn't have the guts to actually make the move. So I have to kind of give them some props for that. Like you said, Justin, who knows if we'll ever see this again? We've never seen it before. Two all all-pro, all-world talents being traded in the middle of the season. We've seen it in the offseason, but we haven't seen it in the middle of the season like this, and then Luca being only 25 years old, coming off of a finals appearance, absolutely shocking. However, I kind of like it from Dallas's perspective. Like I know everybody's focused on the Lakers and Luca playing with LeBron, and rightfully so, but I actually like this trade for Dallas. Maybe because I'm not a Mavericks fan, so them losing Luca doesn't affect me like that. Maybe that's why I'm looking at it like that. But I actually like this trade. I feel like Dallas, we're gonna get to this a little bit later in the show, but I had OKC as the favorite in the West, and I feel like Dallas can challenge them now. Like Dallas was already a great team. They were in the finals already. You take out Luca, who's a horrible defender, obviously great wizard offensively, defensively horrible, and you bring in Anthony Davis, who's a great defender but who can also score. And then you bring in a guy like Max Christie. A lot of people don't know about Max Christie. Max Christie is going to be somebody who Dallas fans are going to love, right? This guy's a good young player. Now you pair him. You've already got Kyrie. You've got Clay over the last few games seems to be kind of making a little bit of a resurgence. I know earlier on this pod we said Clay's not that guy, right? But he seems to be making a little bit of a resurgence. You got PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Lively is still out, but I'm not sure if he's supposed to come back sometime later this season or if he's out for the season. But if he does come back, this is a solid team, right? So I feel like this is Nico. I think he's getting. I think he's getting too much hate. Like this is not Anthony Davis is a top 75 player of all time. Anthony Davis is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not Kwame Brown. Like what are we? People are acting like they traded Luka Doncic for scrubs. Do people not know who Anthony Davis is? Like, I don't understand. Like, and if you're 25 years old and you're getting traded, there's a reason for it, right? Like, did Nico Harrison get to this position by being dumb? No, right? So did he all of a sudden lose his mind? No. Now, the one thing I haven't considered or I hadn't heard, I didn't know that him and Pelinka were friends. Okay, so that does kind of change the math on what's going on? Is there some funny business here? Because we've seen this before with Danny Ainge and Kevin McHale working together to get Kevin Garnett from Minnesota to Boston. We saw this before, right?
Yep.
When
Yep.
when the executives are friends and they have a relationship, it's like, okay, fine, I'll work with you, I'll help you out. So if that's the case, and Nico and Pelinka are actually best friends, then okay, there's a little bit more to discuss
Ah,
there.
yeah.
And then you
There's
look
more.
at is there something?
Apparently, Nico was been trying to get this trade done for 2 months. Right? For 2 months, they met, they had lunch, dinner, they're good buddies. And Nico approached him and said, "Hey, what would you want for Davis?" Because that's who he wants. It wasn't so much about Luca. It was about, I want Davis. He's obsessed with Davis. He feels Davis could take him over the top, right? And then that's when they started going back and forth with Luca and stuff. So for 2 months, Nico was basically harassing him, saying, "Hey, take Luca, take him off our hands. Take this 25-year-old superstar off our hands and give me Anthony Davis." And it took Rob a while, but eventually he's like, "Yeah, what the hell? Let's do this." I think Dallas. I watched the game yesterday. Really good, man. Like you said, people must have forgot about Anthony Davis. Like Anthony Davis, he looked at New Orleans Anthony Davis. Like with the guy was going for 50 and 20. Like he was inspired. And now you got Gaffer, like you said, if Lively comes back, like Kyrie was playing the point guard role, like they could really do work. So, like, if you're a fan of the team, forget the Luca piece. They're a better team now, in my opinion, than if they just had Luca. So
Agreed.
from that standpoint, I think Dallas is good, and I think Nico made a bold move. He swung for the fence, like Masai trading DeMar DeRozan to get Kawhi. Like he took a chance, right? Let's see how it works out for him. On the Lakers side, Luca and LeBron, I'm so interested to see what they look like together. I think they're like, that's gonna be amazing. The only thing is Luca's mannerisms, his characters, stuff, that stuff that he does.
Yeah.
How's that gonna work with LeBron after a while? Is he gonna all of a sudden not do that anymore?
On your point about Luca, so let me ask this to you guys: is it possible that Luca being paired with LeBron, hopefully that LeBron's, his conditioning, his work ethic, the way he carries himself, that can rub off on 25-year-old Luca. That, instead of always, because apparently Luca was always showing up to camp overweight every year, right? So hopefully now, if he's paired up with LeBron, who is 40 years old and still in like the best shape in the league, does that kind of wear off on Luca, or are you who you are? And even if you're playing with LeBron, is Luca still going to be the guy who would rather, be holding a beer in his hand and show up to camp overweight and, not get back on defense because he's yelling at the refs? Is it possible that that being paired with LeBron can actually have that positive effect and positive impact on him going forward?
I think that's the hope, right? Iron sharpens iron. I mean, the Lakers were aware of Luca's issues when they traded for him. There was reports that Luca ballooned up to 260 pounds. And historically, Luca has been injured, quite frankly, because of his conditioning, right? So when he's on the court, he's a great player. The conditioning does affect things. Obviously, it exacerbates injuries. There are times during the season and previously where he would have a slow start just due to conditioning. So they are aware of the concerns they have with Luca in that regards. But when you have a guy like Braun, who, as you mentioned, is in tip-top shape, and he really doesn't stand for that. If you're with Braun, you kind of have to have a certain standard, certain level of play, certain level of fitness. It could hopefully. I mean, the thing is, at the same time, how hard do you want to be on a 25-year-old kid? If you really look at it, most players when they're younger have horrible diets, right? Anthony Davis talks about, not Anthony Davis, sorry, Anthony Edwards talks about eating McDonald's. Dwight Howard used to eat like 10 cheeseburgers a day. And when they got older, they had to change their diets, right? So this is a thing that does happen amongst young players. And that's why you do need those leaders in that locker room that can sort of guide you the right way. Charles Barkley also had that as well. I can't remember who it was that sort of helped him with his diet. And I don't know if it was Dr. J or and I can't remember at the tip of my head, but sometimes you have to have someone there that says, okay, you know what, to succeed, this is what you have to do. So hopefully Braun is that guy.
And then really last real quick point on the Lakers before we move on to the other trades. Um, like you said, you mentioned their big men. Obviously, Rob Pelinka knew they needed a big man. He made a trade, trading Dalton Connect to Charlotte from Mark Williams. And then that trade, we just found out, got rescinded. So Mark Williams apparently failing his physicals. So now Mark Williams got to go back to Charlotte. Dalton Connect coming back to the Lakers. What do you guys think about that trade being rescinded? And was Mark Williams the guy that could have actually put the Lakers maybe into championship contention this year, or are they in championship contention regardless because they have Luca and LeBron?
That was a huge deal getting that trade rescinded because it was one of those things where I thought, you know what, the Lakers, fleeced again because Mark Williams was putting up huge numbers in Charlotte. So you trade AD, you lose your big. That's one spot that the Lakers are very weak at. So it immediately addresses your concern and makes that starting lineup look a whole lot better. It makes a difference because that was a team that with Mark Williams, you looked and said, you know what? You could actually make a decent run in the playoffs. To now, it's just like, yeah, you might get there, but you're out in the first round. I don't think anyone's really truly looking at the Lakers, even with Luca, because that rest of the team is real thin, and saying, okay, this team could really make it past the first round or even past the play, etc. So it was, a really big deal. But at the same time, I heard a lot of things about Mark Williams as well, right? I mean, they were talking about the back injury. He was still playing, so I thought, okay, big deal. But then the fact that he failed his physical, and they're saying it had nothing to do with his back, that's concerning because if the back injury was what we knew, think of it, it's such a weak spot for the Lakers. How injured was he that they said, forget it, we'll just get Connect back, who barely plays any minutes.
Yeah.
And they're the same age. Connect and Williams are the same age. So I mean,
Yep.
You're talking about a 20-year-old that's producing right now as opposed to a rookie who's learning the ropes. JJ Redick cussed him out the other day for not running the play. He yelled at him, said, the play's for you, and called a timeout. So he was frustrated with them. So something really must be wrong there. But it's unfortunate for the Lakers. They definitely lost out.
Yeah, it's Palenka went from they're about to put a statue up for Palenka for getting because that was the one gaping hole. and get rid of Davis, you get Luca. But it's like, like I just said, you lost all your defense. Now relying on Jackson Hayes, who's been in the league long enough, haven't shown anything. Christian Wood, who's never there. Kleba, who I think is hurt right now. So they had nothing. So you get Mark Williams. Oh wow, this guy really got Mark Williams. Mark Williams is like he's a pretty good player. Um, this is his third season, second year in the league. He was at basically 13-10 last year. This year he's at 15.6. So I like to round up. So 16-10. So 13-10 and 16-10. You're gonna put that guy in like seven. What is he? 7-1, 7-2, something like that. You're gonna put that guy with Luca and LeBron. I was like, this is good. Then I started looking at him, and first season played 43 games. Second season, 19 games. Last year or this year, 23 games. So he's always hurt. Kind of like what we were talking about with Ingram. Like he's always hurt. So Pelinka took a chance on a guy that has a history of being hurt. Lucky for them, they found out before they actually solidified the deal. So they're not going to be riddled with him. So they can return him. Unlucky for them, they found out after the trade deadline. So now they really can't do anything. They just got to look at, I guess, the buyout market, whoever comes available in the buyout market. That's really, I think Boban, I think he's available in the buyout market. There might be some other bigs out there that I saw a list. I don't remember on top of my head right now. Like they could maybe possibly try to go see, but Dwight Howard's still sitting at home. JaVale McGee, I thought JaVale McGee's available. Dwight Howard's always putting his hand up, say, I'm here, look at me. So they do need another big. Because if they don't get another big, I don't think they're going to be able to go anywhere this season. Like even with Luca and LeBron, they might be fun. They might do some stuff in the playoff, win a round, whatever, but they're not ultimately going to get where they want to get to if you don't get another big, because defensively, you know what I already feel about Luca. LeBron at his age isn't the greatest defender anymore. You gave up Christie as well. Like you still have Finney Smith. You still got the guy, the Vander. He's always
Vanderbilt.
hurt. Vanderbilt. He's also good defender, but you need a defender from one of your key guys, and I just don't know what they're going to do now that this Mark Williams trade has been rescinded. So I think it's a big deal for the Lakers that they stuck with a big gaping hole in the middle.
All right, so now staying in California, the Golden State Warriors, they picked up Jimmy Butler. That was a massive deal involving five teams. But from the Miami and Golden State perspective, Jimmy Butler goes to Golden State. Miami gets Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Davion Mitchell from Toronto, and then a 2025 protected first round pick from Golden State. So I guess a couple questions. Number one, what are your thoughts on Golden State now with, I guess, their quote unquote big three is Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy, and how that fares in the West? I think right now I think they're 11th in the Western Conference right now. Do you think they are a play-in team? Do you think they get into the playoffs? And then secondly, what are your thoughts on how Jimmy went about forcing his way out of town and getting this trade to begin with?
Um, it was a bit of a strange deal in a way. Yeah, talent wise, Jimmy's still a great talent, but it's an older team now. Jimmy's 35, Clay's, I'm sorry, not Clay. Steph is also on the wrong side of 30. So are you really going to compete now in the West, especially with all the young talent they have? The answer is no. It's still not going to make much of a difference. If I quickly look at the standings, you can move up slightly. I expect Sacramento to drop. So then Golden State should probably rise. But then again, you rise to what, a play-in team? And you're probably not going to get out of the play-in. So their ceiling is most likely the play-in. So I mean, it's fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch. And much more fun to watch than when Wiggins was. No offense to Wiggins, he had a solid season. But Jimmy Butler's a player that's on another level. They looked pretty good last game, but that's against Chicago, so you can't really take much for that. They were actually down by more than 20 points. So it's not necessarily a good thing, but they end up having a 73-28 run and they won. But But yeah, the main issue I probably have with it is the way he went about it and the danger that it does spell for the league, right? To just say, I've always had an issue with this. When you're under contract and you just flat out say, hey, I don't want to play anymore, trade me. It's just crazy to me because it goes against everything that they, set in the collective bargaining agreement. For instance, they put the super max in place so players could stay with their teams. But now what players do is they'll sign a super max and ask to be traded 2, 3 years down the line. So they still get their money. So it's a dangerous road that the NBA has gone down. And I don't know what's going to happen next collective bargaining agreement. I know KG mentioned that, they might just pull guaranteed deals. And who knows, that's going to be a real big point of contention in the very near future. The way he went about it, I don't really like it. But at the same time, owners do the same thing to players, right? They will ship you out in the middle of the night, and it's a tough battle between both sides. But I don't like the way that Jimmy went about it. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not a Jimmy Butler fan at all. I just think I think he doesn't he doesn't care about his teammates, and he doesn't care about the organizations that he plays for. He cares about Jimmy and Jimmy getting paid. That's and Jimmy looking good because he did this in Minnesota, like talking bad about Wiggins, talking bad about Karl Anthony Towns, and all this kind of stuff. Um, like he was just ripping them, and then he goes to Miami a couple years later, doing the same thing to the point where his teammates said, "We don't want this guy back. Like, get him out of here." When your teammates say, "We don't want you around," then that means you're a problem. It's one thing when the organization, because teammates be like, "Oh, that's management. We'll still mess with him, whatever." But when they've had enough internally, then he's got to go. So I just feel like Jimmy Butler. I feel his game is overrated. I think he's a good player. He's a talented player, hard nosed, plays defense, but he takes the regular season off. Like he's come and said he said that the regular season doesn't matter. He uses the regular season like 82 games like a dress rehearsal. So that's what is that? That's a total slap in the face of the fans and the people who are paying money to come see you play. The people who are fans of the Miami Heat that want to see them compete and do their best every day in the regular season, and to the organization that's paying you millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's disrespectful to say, I don't care about the regular season. I'm playoff Jimmy. And now I'm going to step up and now I'm going to do my thing. Yeah, he got them to the finals twice, right? On great performances with teams that probably he shouldn't have taken to the finals. So I will give him that. But Jimmy is, I'm going to put 40, and then the next game, I'm going to have 12. I'm going to score 33, and next game, I'm going to have 11. Like, that's Jimmy Butler. He's not 25. He's not Shea Alexander, who hasn't scored below 22 points this whole season. That's crazy to think about, right? Like that's consistency. Like Jimmy Butler's up and down, and that's the mentality of I don't care about the regular season. Now I'm gonna focus. I don't care about this game. Now I'm gonna play hard. Like that's Jimmy Butler. So for me, I'm not a Jimmy Butler guy. I think Golden State got better, but marginally. Miami gets better because Wiggins is playing. So essentially, is Butler a better player than Wiggins? Yes. But he wasn't there. He was never playing for them. So just having a body to replace the hole that wasn't there. Now, and you also get Kyle Anderson, Heroes doing well. I think Miami is a better team today than they were when they had Jimmy Butler. And I think in Golden State is marginally better.
Yeah. So for me, I think Jimmy. So like you said, you don't like Jimmy. I'm with you on that. I don't care for Jimmy at all because he's done this in Chicago, he's done it in Philly, Minnesota, now Miami. And then eventually, if he's not too old by then, he'll do it in Golden State one day. It's only a matter of when, not if, when it comes to Jimmy Butler. To me, Jimmy Butler, he reminds me of like I would call him like the Kanye West of the NBA. There's immense talent there. The consistency is not always there, and deep down you feel like the person's just a jackass. That's how I look at Jimmy Butler. So to me, it's like, okay, fine, you got your way out of Miami, you forced your way out, you walked out of practice, and you told Pat Riley that you want your money and this and that. I get it, but the one thing that people talk about player empowerment and they like to blame LeBron and the Heat Big Three for like ushering in this era. But the one thing that I feel like that LeBron gets sort of unnecessary flack is LeBron has never asked for a trade. He's never demanded a trade. LeBron always played out his contracts. All he did was wait till he was a free agent, and if he was ready to go, he left. Which there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's within your right. But with Jimmy, for whatever reason, and some of these other guys, they have an issue with not playing out their contracts. And I get it that the team can trade you. I get it. But if you've signed a contract, why are you now saying, you need to pay me, otherwise I'm not going to show up. You need to pay me, or I'm not going to play hard. I don't get that. You sign your contract, play out your contract, and then leave as a free agent. But this stuff about forcing a trade because you want to get your money, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm never going to be on that side. But just looking at the time, I want to make sure that we get into some of these other trades. So Chris Middleton goes from Milwaukee to Washington in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. You got De'Aaron Fox going from Sacramento to San Antonio, now to pair with Wemby. You got Zach LaVine going from Chicago to Sacramento. Now he's back teamed up with DeMar DeRozan again. You got somebody, you got like a younger guys too, like Kevin Porter Jr. going from the Clippers to Milwaukee, DeAndre Hunter going from Atlanta to Cleveland. Bunch of moves here. You got Bogdanovich going from the Hawks to the Clippers. After all these deals, is there a trade amongst the rest? I'll call these the others of the trades that stands out to you the most. And on top of that, who would you say is the trade deadline winner? And then finally, has your opinion on the favorites to win it all in June? Has anything changed based on these trades that we just saw happen this week?
Sure, I think there was two moves in particular. The first one was the De'Aaron Fox one. You're getting a guy in his prime to be teamed up with Wemby. That is just something that is amazing. Not only for now, it's immediately going to make them better right now, but also in the future. So that is a monstrous move. It's a great move. Pop just knows how to keep things rolling. They're going to be competitive for a long time, and in the next couple of years, they're going to be a force in the West. They definitely will be. So that to me is a great move. And one other move that I want to mention, which is a very underrated move that not a lot of people are talking about. Maybe it's just because his name's not as popular amongst casuals. Is DeAndre Hunter. You're talking about a guy that's was averaging 19 points out in Atlanta and gives you great defense. And Cleveland is the best defensive team in the league. Not only that, Cleveland also had a glaring hole at that 3 spot. That was the one spot that they had that was pretty weak. So now you solve that with getting Hunter. That is a move that they could be in the finals in June easily now, right? Their only challenge for sure is Boston, and that's it. And with Hunter, they may be able to surpass Boston. So this could be a team that wins a title because of that trade, the trade that no one's actually talking about. So that is actually the biggest underrated move, in my opinion, as well as Fox, at least for now. In the future, it's just a great move. But for right now, De'Aaron Hunter could make a huge impact, bigger impact than maybe anyone else.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think the Andre Hunter move was a sneaky good move. They're bigger. They're already a big team. They're already the biggest team in the East. Now they're even bigger, right? Bringing in DeAndre Hunter to put in that 3 spot. I don't know. I don't have off the top of my head their record right now, but I know Cleveland has been from beginning to now the best team in the league. So I think getting DeAndre Hunter definitely, to me, dare I say, they're going to come out of the East. Like, I feel like they can beat Boston. I think they can beat Boston. I think Boston hasn't been impressive. Now, it's hard to tell. They could be bored with the regular season. They are champs, but I've seen them play head-to-head already this year, and Cleveland's already beat them. I saw what it looks like. It can be done. So I think that definitely helps Cleveland. I think getting De'Aaron Fox over to San Antonio is a good move. Fox, all-star talent. Wemby, future of the league. Fox gets to be under Chris Paul, so he kind of maybe learns a little bit more. It's a good move. I don't know how much it does for them this season. Um, but I think going forward to know that you have your big and you have your point guard, those two positions solidified is good. I like Vassell as well. He's pretty good. Sohan is not bad. So I think so that's also a good move. Another move that I thought was pretty good, not like I don't think gonna all of a sudden see you to make you a championship, but I think the Kuzma move was pretty good. Reason being, I don't think Kuzma necessarily is a better player than Middleton. Or Middleton, we've seen him in playoffs, we've seen him in big moments, so we know. But people forget Kuzma won the championship with the Lakers. Like, and he was an integral part of that championship. He wasn't just a guy, like when they won in the bubble, right? Like he played a role. So he's been around winning situations, winning organizations, and had to perform and be counted on in the clutch. And he's done it. We've kind of forgotten about that because he's been sent to NBA Siberia and Washington, where they've just been terrible. And when he first got there, he was pretty good. But you can see that this season, all the losing, the team's not even trying to win. He's not playing well. So all his numbers are down across the board. So that may be misleading. But I think you put him in a situation where they're playing for something, and he now becomes their third guy. Not like, oh, you got to go save us and be the main guy or anything like that. Middleton was never playing for them. At least now they have another guy that if you do play a Boston, a Cleveland, a New York, they got to worry about it. He may go for 20. He may go for 25. You don't know, right? He may get hot, sneaky hot, go for 30, right? Kuzma has that size, and he's like 6'9", 6'8", like he's got size as well. So I think that was a subtle good move by the Bucks that a lot of people are paying attention to. But in terms of order, I still think coming out of the West, I like OKC and now Dallas. I think if Davis can be healthy, I think I like OKC and Dallas. So that bolsters Dallas. And I think in the East, I like Cleveland because of DeAndre Hunter.
So I was Cleveland and versus Boston, or like you're saying you're taking Cleveland to come out and make the finals.
I think Cleveland can make the finals. Yeah, I'm taking Cleveland.
And Justin, who do you have in the East and the West?
Um, I have Boston in the East, question mark. I don't know. But I'll put Boston in the East, and in the West, I'm gonna go OKC. Since Chet's back, I'm gonna go OKC in the West.
Yeah, so I think I'm probably leaning towards Justin's picks as well. I'm going to go with Boston over Cleveland. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how the Hunter pick plays out, but
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards Boston just because they've done it. They
Yeah.
they've done it before. They know how to win. And Cleveland, we haven't seen. I feel like this is the first time Cleveland's actually a great team, and we know in the history of the NBA that it usually doesn't work out. Where as soon as you become great, you make it, right? Like you got to go through those bumps. So I'll take Boston, and then in the West, this pick is gonna be hypocritical because of what I just said, but I'll take OKC, even though I know OKC has to go through their bumps too. So maybe they don't make the finals this year, but I'm gonna go with OKC just because Shea to me is the MVP of the league and the consistency. Like Emmanuel, you said, he hasn't scored less than 22 points all season. Every season, every night you can book it at least 25 and up. Like this guy, he's a machine. I wanted to mention Dennis Schroeder before he got traded. Day before the trade deadline, made some weird comments comparing being an NBA player and getting traded to modern day slavery. Um, and then the very next day, he gets routed from Golden State. So earlier this season, in case you haven't been keeping up with the travels of Dennis Schroeder, okay, last year he was on Toronto. He gets traded at the deadline to Brooklyn. This year, Brooklyn trades him to Golden State. His son is all excited, says, okay, now you can be on a good team. Then he then gets traded from Golden State to Miami. Miami then flips him to Utah. Utah's now flipped him to Detroit. So now he's in Detroit. But he said modern day slavery. What? Come on. What do you guys? We got 3 minutes. What's your call on that? Like modern day slavery? Seriously?
Okay, so this is the guy that turned down 4 years, 84 million to sign a contract the next year for 5.9 million. So maybe he is a slave because in slavery times, it was illegal to read. So he was
No,
unable to read that 84 million is more money than 5.9. So I just want to tell him that we are free people now. We're no longer slaves, Dennis. So once he realizes that, the world will be open to him. So no, he's not. No one's paying you 84 million. Come on, it's insulting to the regular, average working people. It's a ridiculous statement.
Real quick, I think it was a poor choice of words. You never want to use slavery when you're talking with black people, and the league is majority black, is the owners are majority white. You never want to go into slavery, so that was definitely a poor choice of words. But let me just play devil's advocate for a minute. Like, if you in your job, if I was to get up and I go to work, and as soon as I show up to work, they're like, guess what? We're sending you to Utah now. You have to go work in Utah and live in Utah, and you don't have a say in it. I'd be like, well, damn. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be a bit of a shock to me. I'd have to call my wife. I'd be like, now I got to do all this stuff. And then you get to Utah, you okay, fine. Wife meets you, you bring the kids over, you're getting settled. I'm in Utah for 2 months. And they're like, boom, pack up your stuff, we're sending you to Sacramento. And you don't have a say in it. So he's not a slave. Poor choice of words, but NBA players, athletes are human as well. And I think fans, because they make a lot of money, don't associate them being human and going through the same type of like stress, depression, anxieties that regular people do. So if you have children, you have a family in a certain school setting, you live in a certain lifestyle, and without a minute's notice, you don't have a say in it, you're traded, you got to pack up your stuff, you got to go. There is an anxiety to that. There is an issue with that. So poor choice of words, but maybe that's what he was trying to say.
So I'll say you're being very kind. You're being very kind to Dennis because I'll say, listen, NBA players and professional athletes know that trades are part of the business. He knew when he signs his contracts that he could get traded. Unless you have a no trade clause like Bradley Beal or LeBron James, there's a possibility you can get traded. We just saw that with Luca, and we saw that with AD. So to say this is like modern day slavery is crazy, right? It boggles the mind. The average worker, just to talk about your analogy, the average worker doesn't agree or doesn't sign their employment contract knowing that there's a possibility that they could get shipped to some other company or in another city or another state or another country. It's not the same thing. However, if my employer told me, listen, you know what, we're going to pay you millions of dollars, but at the drop of a hat, we can ship you to Utah, or we can ship you to Detroit, or we can ship you to Miami. You know what? But I'm making millions of dollars. Fine, I'll take that. Right? That's the trade-off. The trade-off is you're making millions of dollars. That's why you can get traded. You're making millions. What are we talking about?
Vince, I have a solution to this. I have a quick solution to this, right? I think we need to change the term during Black History Month. So during Black History Month, you cannot be called an owner. My owner is not training me during Black History Month. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Maybe my corporate director of basketball movement, something during Black History Month, just for that. My owner cannot train me 4 times during Black History Month. That's ridiculous. That's the only thing. That's
all right. So, okay, this is a good show. We're running out of time, so we'll have to stop it there on the Dennis Schroeder talk.